Hello, my name is Anthony Moreau. I am the CEO of American Eagle Gold, and I'm happy to have Mark Bradley, who is a VP of Exploration for American Eagle Gold, and he's working on the Golden Trend property, helping us to find a world-class discovery in the Cortez Trend just south of Gold Rush. Now, I want to use this time to tell our investors and the public a bit of a history of the area. Everyone knows the history of Carlin. Carlin was discovered, the main deposit, in 1961 by Newmont geologist John Livermore. They started mining there in 1966. It's the mine that really gave Newmont the size that it is today, and they helped make the Carlin Trend one of the most prolific trends in the area. Now, a lot of people don't know the Cortez Trend quite as much. It's on the Battle Mountain Eureka Trend, and I have Mark Bradley here, who is our VP of Exploration. He helped discover Gold Rush. He led the team, and he has a very deep understanding of the history. So Mark, can you just maybe tell us a brief history of Cortez and help inform the investors a little bit about the background and why it's so prolific?
Sure, Tony. Thanks. I guess the gold history of Cortez, it goes back as far as the 1920s when there was some placer mining dry placer mining going on. 30s during the Depression, there was some local prospectors that were making a small living doing that. And there's the Gold Acres mine in the north end of Crescent Valley that was started out as an underground operation. Then a small open pit was put in the early 60s. So about pretty small scale. They're producing maybe 20, 30,000 ounces a year. That was the most that they saw of that. And then across the valley of Cortez proper, that was a historic silver district that had been in production between the 1860s and the 1920s. And all silver, almost no gold in that system. And so the original Cortez joint venture was formed in 1963 between what was then Placer Amex and then the Bunker Hill mining company from Idaho, and a couple of local prospectors. And the idea there was they were going to go back into the Cortez silver mine, hence why Bunker Hill was involved. They're going to see if they could rehab the workings and start developing silver again. A year or two after they formed the JV, the USGS did a regional geochemical survey, stream sediment and selective soil rangefront soils across the Cortez rangefront. And they reported that they had found a gold anomaly, geochemical anomaly there. And this caught the attention of one of the JV partners, Bill Wilson. He suggested to the other partners, we shouldn't worry about dicking around with an old played out silver mine. We should be checking out this gold anomaly. It could be a gold mine here. So he was able to convince the JV partners to switch their sites and go after the gold anomaly. They did some drilling, and in 1967, they discovered the original Cortez gold mine. And they were able to develop several pits on this area, and they produced I think they mined close to 1 million ounces in 4 or 5 years. It was actually a pretty good producer for a few years, all oxide gold, and they built a small mill. And then eventually that kind of played out. They ended up buying Gold Acres because there's a little bit of gold left there. They were going to process that. Then they were able to discover the Horse Canyon mine in 1978, and that was another small mine that produced maybe 250,000 ounces over 4 or 5 years. So it was but it was all hand to mouth. It was these small mines. They'd find, every time they thought they were played out, they'd find another mine, keep going for a few more years. But it looked like everybody thought it was kind of a dinky, it's just going to be this dinky district, little mines that weren't going to, last very long. Then in 1991, they were going to expand heap leach pads at the Gold Acres mine in the north end of Crescent Valley. And the geologists there had a target they wanted to test under the pedigree gravels for quite some time, but could never convince people to drill into the gravel to look for it. But needing condemnation holes, they were finally able to get a budget to do some holes there. And they drilled 3 holes, each about 1,000 feet deep. And the second hole hit 120 feet of over a 1/3 ounce oxide. And that was the original pipeline. That was the pipeline discovery hole. And basically, after that, within 5 years, we drilled out 7 million ounces in this deposit, and we're able to build a whole new mining complex, mill, a whole new facility, and that was the real start of Cortez as a world-class mining district. And they've produced close to 20 million ounces out of pipeline at this point. Yeah.
So then after Pipeline, tell us about Cortez Hills and then
Yeah.
the discovery of Gold Rush after that.
Yeah, Cortez Hills discovery came about. They were drilling south of the original Cortez gold mine, trying to follow a long trend along the Cortez range front. And they hit what they called the South Pediment deposit, which was low grade. It was around a gram, 0.3 ounce per ton. But it was oxidized and it was an exotic deposit. It was actually hosted a landslide. So these blocks of mineralization that had come from somewhere else, but nobody's quite sure from where. I mean, where was the direction? And eventually they figured out they were doing gravity surveys. They figured out there was looked like a graben type sort of big down drop block to the north of South Pediment. They drilled some exploration holes up there in 2002. They drilled down the throat of a big breccia pipe, near vertical breccia pipe, and that hole was spectacular. It was something like 500 feet, averaging almost an ounce. And that all oxide, and that was the original Cortez Hills discovery. And then they started drilling that out. They defined the near vertical breccia pipe, and then further drilling, they identified a tabular body of mineralization at depth extending south from the breccia pipe, and that's what they call the lower zone. And that's actually what's going into production now, is what Nevada Gold Mines is calling the Deep South Project. So, and that should be starting mining here pretty quick.
And just south of that is Gold Rush. And just to remind the viewers and the investors, our property is Golden Trend, and it's just south of Gold Rush. But you've been to the property hundreds of times.
Yeah.
How far is the Golden Trend property from Gold Rush, and how far is it from Cortez?
It's about 8 kilometers south of Cortez Hills along the Cortez range front, and it's about 5 or 6 kilometers southwest of Gold Rush. So basically, it's within sight of both deposits.
So from the sounds of it, you're moving southeast, and a world-class discovery is made almost 10 years, and Gold Trend seems to be on that trend.
Yeah, it's on the same basic trend as Cortez Hills, following the Cortez Fault, which is the major fault in the area, northwest trending fault, in the same position as Cortez Hills, and it's under a little more cover than Cortez Hills or Gold Rush, but basically the same basic package of rocks in the area. So
now, one last question. How underexplored is Cortez Trend, and does it have a chance to be as prolific as its neighbor, the Carlin Trend?
Yeah, well, I do believe the Cortez Trend is it's not mature. People will talk about, hey, this district's mature, it's been explored extensively. People say most of the Carlin Trend, for instance, because people have been working on it for 60 years. It's at a high state maturity. Well, serious exploration of Cortez has only been going on for about half that length of time. And I think there's more of a challenge because so much of the Cortez district is undercover, and exploring undercover is definitely more challenging than finding near surface deposits. And I think that's basically another factor in why Cortez is underexplored relative to some of the other major gold belts.
Well, Mark, thank you very much. And where there is a challenge, there is a giant opportunity. And if it wasn't for that challenge, we wouldn't have the Golden Trend. And like I said, it's on trend with Cortez. It's right next to Gold Rush. It's attached to Barrick and Newmont's giant world-class joint venture, Nevada Gold Mines. We're very excited to have you as our VP of Exploration, and we're very confident that we can find a deposit. Thank you very much for joining me, Mark.
Yeah, thank you, Tony. Appreciate it.
Thank you.